Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Halloween movie marathon thingy. Today we're doing the 2019 remake of the original Child's Play movie, like we said we would. So, yeah. One thing I would like to correct real quickly about the previous movie's commentary, because I only kind of skimmed it and didn't really properly explain in detail what Don Mancini's inspiration. Basically, Mancini was amused by the hysteria surrounding the Cabbage Patch Kids. For those who don't know, Cabbage Patch Kids were kind of a popular brand of dolls at the time, and that ubiquitous dolls were disappearing from toy shops and prompting physical fights between parents. He actually saw this. So basically, Jova turns out jingle all the way wasn't as ridiculous as we thought.
Nothing. We talked about a lot about Black Fridays, but nothing really has changed.
Mancini's father had worked in the advertising industry all his life, and he knew how effective marketing could result in consumer bedlam. So based on this, Mancini wanted to write a dark satire about how marketing affected children. So that's the big thing with the original Child's Play trilogy, basically. But get back to this movie. Yeah, this is a remake that was originally started development in the 2010s, and Brad Dourif was supposed to reprise his role as Chucky, as always. And then suddenly, somewhere on development, they told us that Mark Hamill, more well known as Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, or Joker in the Batman animated series, would instead be Chucky, which kind of caused some confusion. I mean, but whatever.
Okay, apparently, to be fair, this was sort of accompanied by the fact that the project had kind of gone on a bit of a hiatus, so I wouldn't say that the Mark Hamill thing necessarily was like, rug pulling as much as, the whole, the remake's been shut down and then got revived here. I will say this, though. I don't really have any expectations, good or bad. The background I've seen on this movie is that on a budget of $10 million, it made $45 million. Pretty good for a box office. As for the reception, critics were surprisingly mostly positive, and viewers of it were mixed, but not overtly negative. And apparently they did have plans for a sequel, but for whatever reason, they haven't made that sequel yet, so I honestly don't get it. Granted, maybe this movie will be terabad, but I don't recall hearing that much hate about it. Mind you, there were criticisms of it I did hear, which we'll get to in the movie. And believe it or not, this is not the weirdest case of sequel or no sequel. A bit of foreshadowing for a later project we're doing for this marathon. But that is neither here nor there. But Pedro, this thing.
No, I can tell that the hardcore Child's Play fan base denounced this movie, and we're really happy with the streaming series now at this point. So we're just happy to just leave this behind us at this point.
I will say this, for people who were a fan of this movie, it is a shame that sequel hasn't been made. It doesn't seem like there's any reason why said sequel hasn't been made. I don't know.
The only explanation I can think of is that despite it making money, maybe they didn't get the praise they expected from the fans. Maybe I don't know.
What I see here is that someone in the production mentioned that he would love to do it, but they have to, wait the okay from MGM. So it's up to them, and in this case now then Amazon. And getting the feeling they're like, we're at the end of the series, and we don't need it.
That actually is a good segue, because Don Mancini actually has pronounced himself about the remake. He hasn't seen it, but he says that because that movie didn't really take off and be a big success like MGM was expecting, that's why they were allowed to make the streaming series. Yes, watch the streaming series. It's great. So I guess maybe we're not going to get that sequel. I mean, considering the success of the streaming series. So at this point, I guess this cancel. It probably can at this point. So yeah.
Well, let's see what this is about. Shall we?
So let's see what it is. All right, everybody. In case you have the Vertigo whatever logo before the Orion Pictures logo, skip that. Aside from that, you should be good. So let's start. 3, 2, 1, click.
This movie has something of an interesting cast, actually. Basically, we'll be seeing a lot of returning characters from the original movie, obviously with different actors. And here's an interesting one. Aubrey Plaza is Karen Barclay. For those who don't know,
Orion Pictures. I feel like I've heard that title before.
Anyway, for those who don't know, Aubrey Plaza is basically Chris Pratt's love interest off of Parks and Recreation, the girl who's infamous for constantly having the monotone and neutral face. We have Gabriel Bateman as Andy Barclay, Brian Tyree Henry as Detective Mike Norris, and of course, Mark Hamill as Chucky.
Wait. I thought we were watching Child's Play. This looks like the beginning of Remember Me.
Also, you were saying about the production dips or something?
Also, Jay,
Oh God!
basically, Jay, Orion Pictures were mostly famous for making the RoboCop films, but then they went bust. But at some point, MGM bought bought
I'm
everything
sorry.
Orion Pictures, and now they're using them as a label.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
why does
so in
Chucky
this
have the finger thing from ET?
I'm more like, what's wrong with
I-
Hang on, you were saying Dwips?
No, that was it.
Okay,
That was it,
so
actually,
in
well done.
this, so in this remake,
Okay.
the Buddy dolls are essentially the latest of a product from a company known as Kazlan.
There you go.
Which
And you connect it
means-
to the cloud. It's literally a robot that does things. It's not just a doll.
I
This
can
is
get,
an interesting reinterpretation of the instead of just being a toy, but
I can get
Jesus
why
Christ,
they,
that face.
I can get why they kind of did this, seeing as how like, well, this makes it more applicable to multiple ages of folks here and there.
What did
Somehow
they do to
looks more
that
hideous.
doll's
Of
face?
course, it's made in Vietnam.
I guess it's their way of trying to make it look scary, but I don't know. Anyway,
Like, I'm sorry, go on.
okay, so this is the factory. And now, guys, in the original movie, Chucky was a doll possessed by a killer soul. So
Right.
let's see what exactly turns Chucky, specifically the doll that Andy gets, different than the others. Let's see exactly what happens to actually get this
Oh,
toy
let me-
evil.
I can
Wait.
guess. One
Go
of the
on.
one of the factory workers dies, and his soul gets put into one of them, and he takes revenge.
Blips, that would actually you just had a much better idea than this movie.
You will be
Actually,
basically saying that someone, of Southern Asia, Southern Eastern Asian ethnicity becomes Mark Hamill. No.
let me translate this a bit because for sure, like basically he's telling him that he's worthless, he's shit at this work, and blah blah blah. He's basically just crapping on him. That's all.
Admittedly,
Again, work abuse.
Oh, don't tell me.
okay, to
I'll
be
show it to you.
Yeah, I
So
see.
you're saying we're not getting the man with the power?
anyway,
There you go. Behavior. There you go. He just removed behavior safeguards from this particular
Because
doll.
you
Is
can
that-
do that.
Why would you need that in the first place?
What?
there's also
Yeah,
well,
violence.
why does that
Violent inhibitions
exist?
removed. What?
Wait!
Yes.
there you go,
There
ladies
are
and
also
gentlemen.
violence inhibitors removed. Well, you see, guys, we don't want our dolls doing anything mischievous now.
So don't
Well,
promote
sometimes-
violence.
Yeah, what we've said. Why would the violent pattern even be there to begin with?
Okay.
Apparently, these dolls were knockoff killer machines for war.
Like,
Why not?
aren't we applying the free laws of robotics with this?
Okay. Apparently, the idea is that the AI is incredibly advanced, which makes it somewhat human-like. So, we don't want another Skynet on our hands now, do we?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, he killed
so yeah,
himself.
guys, the evil doll of this movie only exists because this one employee got so frustrated at his boss, he decided to basically just, okay, I'm going to completely remove I'm going to, whatever kid gets this doll, and he hasn't done anything bad to me, but he will pay for this.
Okay.
Not even the boss that, had
okay.
a go at me.
Yeah.
To be fair, this is more so his vengeance against the company, which, yeah, given...
Oh, you didn't.
What?
What
Oh,
the
fuck
fuck
off!
was that line?
Off to a
Yeah.
great start.
I'm
Not a
sorry,
good
what?
Start, is it, guys?
No, seriously, did I miss something? What are you guys complaining about?
Oh, the very first line that came out of this man's mouth was, "Nobody told me this kid was fucking ginger."
Oh.
This doll, not this kid.
I meant this doll. I'm sorry. It just kind of threw me for a loop. How do you start a movie? I was about to start complaining about the fact that they turned the Karen into a Karen, and then
I think it's a good moment to mention who the writer is, I guess.
Tyler Burton Smith wrote the screenplay to this movie, and that sounds. And in case that sounds familiar to a few of us here, that's because he was one of the writers for
Quantum Break. Yeah.
Okay, Quantum Break did not have this weird, bizarre dialogue, but
Well, he wasn't the only writer for
Oh.
Quantum Break. So.
what was this shot? The fact that the repairman is creepy?
Dude,
Yeah,
stop
the-
staring, you
If a
weirdo.
chubby man flirts with you, he's immediately a problem.
You watch around the ball too. That guy is gonna be the creepy stalker of sorts for the movie.
Of course.
Okay, here's the other major problem I have
so
with
they
this
do
movie
have a
already.
cat in this version.
Well, there you go, Shiro. They do have a cat in this version, so there
I
you go.
was just joking.
Oh no, Cat! They put you 25 years into the future.
Okay, Okay, immediately right from the get-go, I have kind of a problem with this movie, specifically Andy himself. Okay, let me put it this way. In the original movie, it worked because Andy was 6. This Andy is clearly like 12, 13. I'm not entirely sure I'd buy the premise of a boy this old playing with a doll like Chucky.
Okay,
to be honest with you.
to his credit, as I pointed out, this is sort of why they made the buddy doll meme, Tio. It's a meme. Anyway, though.
Not very dank.
The point of the buddy doll in this case is like, well, it's more than just, a doll and whatnot. It's literally a multimedia AI that can do tons of stuff. So, at least in this case, like I mentioned, they did give a reason for why, ages above 6 might be interested in the doll, since it's state-of-the-art technology and whatnot that can hook up to this or that.
I don't know. I feel like this kid would rather have a laptop or a modern phone.
Yeah, honestly, no. I mean, he wouldn't be limited to just that.
Maybe there's a misunderstanding. Like the mother believes he wants the doll, but he doesn't.
They slapped a cracked screen protector over the phone and called it broken.
Okay. Like, no. To his credit, given what this doll can do, I can totally get him wanting one of those, given the state-of-the-art technology behind it. Like, and again,
Also,
to its
he's lighting. You're not filming the Matrix.
Hold on, let Joe finish. Go on.
To its credit, the trailer or the commercial for said doll did point out all its capable features that make it handy for people of all ages. So, again, the movie is covering its bases in that regard.
Also, I think I saw the actress who played that.
Hold on, listen to this too.
Basically, the original customer didn't care for this one because for some reason, unlike the others, its eyes were red.
Hold on.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, my movie. Like,
okay.
Information.
Hold on.
Ah, I see. Basically, it's a little bit of, hey, we don't need to divulge this information this or that as long as you just let me take this.
Okay,
Also,
I will say this. Yes, the guy's an asshole for cheating on his wife, all that shit. Yes, obviously. That doesn't necessarily give you the right to blackmail somebody exploiting that. Like
not just that, I already started
29.
I already started seeing a problem. Again, comparing it to the original, where it felt more genuine, honest. This is kind of having a bit of a cliches and trapping of the 2010s, some horror movies, and particularly also the free remakes that New Cinema was doing in the early ones, which this clearly was trying to capitalize probably on. So
okay. All overreactions aside, I'm not really seeing anything drastically problematic about this movie so far.
Not necessarily problematic.
Because it starts off with every character just being unlikable. Never mind trying to compare it from their original cast to now.
I hesitate to say every character because most of the characters we met are minor characters aside from this kid and this guy here who was the remix version of Mike Harris and his mother.
If I can make a complaint, actually.
Go on.
It feels like I feel like I accidentally pressed the 2x speed up function on my YouTube copy because speaking their lines really.
Yeah, the pacing in this one is quite fast compared to the original.
I think I saw these actors somewhere else. Sorry, go on, Pedro. Sorry.
Remember, one of the big virtues of the original that we praised was the fact that the movie took its time to build up atmosphere, to build up tension. Again, don't get me wrong, the original movie was by no means a scary movie, like we've said. That being said, it had a good understanding of pacing and tension and build-up. That being said, this one, don't get me wrong, there will be moments where the movie tries to do something akin to that. But yeah, like Dwebs did already note, yeah, the pacing on this one is comparatively more faster.
Anyway, I want to give this movie a bit of a chance since, again, we just have the premise of, okay, so in this universe, the Buddy dolls are kind of like portable modules that can hook into a lot of...
working a combination of Roombas in series.
And drones,
Honestly,
apparently, too, so... Again, no, I mean, I can actually get why this kid might want one at his age.
I'm more amused by the fact that they're not having a plot like the military wants to have applications with this thing.
That would be just a little bit too cheesy.
Stick a needle in your eye.
Yeah, like I said, it's not good guy like in the original, it's Buddy this time.
Also, if I see correctly, Andy has an hearing aid.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been noticing that. I was wondering whether or not he's deaf in one ear.
Apparently,
Because it doesn't look like a normal...
I wonder.
Again, like I said, I know that, we've had reactions and whatnot here and there, but I'm not noticing anything overtly bad so far. Like, yeah, okay.
So far, the character's personality is more than anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. See, even he's saying it.
It's been a year. I'm not a little kid
no
anymore.
batteries.
Oh, goody.
By the way,
goody.
if something like this has...
Goody, it uses
USB.
Type-C USB.
Oh.
There you go, Teo. Scary enough for you?
Kinda is. I still wonder on what specific type of face model they based.
Alright, okay. I'll be fair. I mean, nowadays you can link certain. You can have you can update your Legos using Bluetooth. So
I know, right?
Did you?
That being said, yeah, sure. For the sake of also saying something positive, I am at the very least glad that they went with a puppet for this remake as well, instead of trying to create a CGI character.
The thing is, I actually thought it was part CG because of how off the face is.
Maybe it's a combination.
From what
that's what I'm saying. It's just, ugh.
I'm not.
I'm not sure. He actually does look more. He looks like a ventriloquist doll.
Huh.
And those look pretty off too.
Well, I guess that's the point.
Also, Mark Hamill sounds so weird for the time being. I'm guessing he's not really used to having this more calm role, and we're just hiring him just for him to go ape shit.
No. Actually, the point of it is the voice he's going for in that regard.
Oh, no, I understand. It just sounds weird.
Chucky, I love that line. Chucky, connect to the cloud.
Learn
Chucky, download
stuff.
some porn.
Let's go to the dark web and see a picture of a skeleton.
I kid, Jova, but that's totally something the real Chucky would do.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, by movie 4, absolutely.
Chucky, swear, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, you know what? That's a good joke.
Yeah, I'm also going to say this. These new versions of the characters are not quite as charming as the original. I will say, at least definitely so far, because I felt like Alex Vincent and I forgot the woman who plays Karen, her name. They had some good chemistry, and like we talked about, some really good character writing that made them more than just characters to be killed.
They
Well,
look
so
like real
far-
people, while these, you can tell the role feels more fictional.
Well, hey,
At least
hey,
dragon.
animatronics have come a long way in 31 years.
I wouldn't
so-
say that they feel fictional. It's definitely the characters in a different era, though. Okay, I do wonder if maybe part of the reason we kind of have to compare these to the original is like, well, they literally share the same names as the characters. Like, it's essentially, for the most part, the cast, from the original movie in that regard. We got Karen, her son Andy, a detective Mike Harris and whatnot. So,
Listen here.
I don't know.
You
It's
want
just,
Mark Hamill to sing, of course.
I guess ironically it does fit because it's just so out of date, which I suppose works for a creepy horror
Chucky?
movie.
Are you okay, Chucky?
Yeah.
He's becoming a chuckster.
I'm surprised the cat hasn't started hissing at it.
no, the
Yeah,
cat's
cats are
like,
usually
this is
sensitive to
fine.
this. That cat needs a cup of coffee.
I'll also say something. To me, one of the big things that really made Chucky so appealing, the character, I mean, is the fact that there was the whole concept of an evil killer inside this doll. Whereas in here, it's literally just a toy that's just going haywire. I feel like that gives him less personality and makes him less interesting, if you ask me.
I suppose some people might like it in the sense that, well, in this case, it's the doll itself that has agency, which adds some creepiness to it. I can get why people who prefer the original would not care for this as much. Okay. I feel like instead of blatant bad remake vibes, I think the vibes I'm getting from this movie are... It really depends on what you're into for this remake. Like, I can appreciate that they were trying to do something different enough from the original, but still have, the same premise. Killer doll, essentially. The circumstances of it being a bit different here and there. Oh, that's not
I'm going to
foreboding at
stay
all.
here. Good night, Andy. I will stay here and watch as you sleep.
I will give Mark Hamill credit. I do like the weirdly monotone but slightly emotional take he's going for in Chucky here, which...
Oh, yeah, montage.
Oh boy.
I don't have a montage.
You had no reason to do that,
No,
kid.
this is just done so that Chucky
And-
learns how to use a knife.
Oh,
But
brother.
there, with a knife, is his iconic weapon.
Oh, it is. Just, try to foreshadow this in a more organic way, please.
Ah, but he remembered his science book for him. That's nice. Except,
Also, because
it's a
the
toilet
original villain was a
paper.
killer who already knew how to use a knife. Go on.
Yeah,
Here,
in this
he was
case, it's
supposed
just
to
a
be a strangler.
toy that doesn't really know
Basically,
why. It,
See, he started to remember that towards the end of the movie.
Basically, this seems to be a more violent version of Ron's Gone Wrong.
Actually, speaking of that, I just come to the realization, this toy is a lawsuit liability
Oh.
just
Also, I'm
waiting
not-
to happen. Not even the killer one, just the other tendencies. A lot of people take these types of toys and take it apart to see what it's made up of. How long do you think it would have taken with this toy on the market before 3 or 4 different computer engineers found violent tendencies off?
Well, you see,
I'm-
Jay, as long as those violent tendencies are off, and you can only remove those if you're a hacker. And honestly, even if you were a
Why is
hacker,
that a setting in the first place?
Yes, Pedro?
Yeah. Another thing that I don't care for is the new character they added in. The fact that Karen is seeing someone after the dad /left/ died. It's not really explained in this movie either. Because again, as usual in these kinds of movies, they portray the guy as a dick because of course that it's such a cliche to portray
Very
stepdads in
plain.
these movies as assholes, of course. And I don't know. I far preferred the focused dynamic between the son and the mom.
I do wonder if the main
Okay.
reason that they hired Mark Hamill for the role is because Get this, Mark Hamill has actually portrayed Chucky before in Robot
Yeah.
Chicken.
Probably. That's probably the reason.
Oh, bad cat.
Must
Oh, no.
kill
Oh,
cat.
Oh, Shiri, I get the idea. You might want to turn away for a second.
This doll's going in the fucking fire.
Pretty hurt.
No,
Did he hurt Andy?
sure. No, sure. It was the cat that scratched Andy, not the doll.
No,
Yeah,
it was
sure,
about
but
what
I get
you
a
said.
feeling of what's gonna happen next.
Oh,
No, it's
even Andy
okay.
said-
You do that. You do
even
that.
even Andy said. Oh, there you go.
Da da
Wow.
da da.
Da, 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 da. Even Andy said, "I'm so sick of this cat."
Oh, it is strangling the cat.
Also, they named the cat Mickey Rooney. How
Sure.
random!
Cute.
How random!
Is he gonna narrate about the Care Bears?
The Care Bear.
Ugh.
But they care.
More
Yeah,
than
don't
the
hurt
singer in
people.
that movie cared.
Don't hurt people, Chucky. It's not cool.
who are you? Get out of here.
That's the boyfriend, I
No,
think.
don't. Oh,
Yeah,
you might
no,
have
that's
just.
the thing. That's the thing. Sure, like you said, boyfriend. He does not have any authority over him.
All right.
Like,
Well, I
Also,
was saying,
Andy. Also, Andy, are you the
Probably
next
really
kid to
Chucky
become
is a cat.
Shazam?
that's what I'm talking
Absolutely.
about. That's what I was talking about. Again, he's only a boyfriend, not married to her, so he has no authority over him. But again, he's a dick character, so of course he's gonna,
wow,
say.
like I just said, wow, they moved on quickly from
Yeah, strangling the cat.
Quick question.
Now we're friends
Uh,
again.
Yes, sure.
For you specifically, Pedro, does the mum ever like tell him that he can't talk to his son like that?
No, I mean, I've only seen this
Well,
movie
she sucks
once.
too then.
Well, okay. To be fair, I've only seen this movie once before this, so hold out that judgment on that. Oh, this bit. Listen to this. This is interesting. Listen to this.
Oh, hearing aid.
Oh, he does have a hearing aid.
yeah, he does. He does. That doesn't come into play in the story though, so I don't even know why they did bothered. There you go. Listen. Okay.
Dialogue quality.
But you think that's
Ah.
interesting?
Yes, our exposition character.
Yeah. Ugh. What?
He
We
did just
inter-
try to strangle
We
my
interrupt
cat.
Child's Play 2019 to bring you
Excuse
Stranger
me?
Things.
Okay. Don't get me wrong. I get that he's probably kind of a dick considering he's a teenager, but seriously, he
Also,
really
we
jumped
did-
on that.
We did
No, I
the
don't-
teleportation thing. Seriously?
Okay, to be fair, when I was young, if you gave me a stupid idea, I'd triple down on it for the fun of it.
Also, to be fair, not so much teleportation to you. He could have easily have just moved to his right.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you mean. I'm mostly referring. God, it really is just a cheap filter on the phone.
You might want to not call him that.
Not to mention, I guess you're
Because
your
of his
best
mom.
friends now.
Yeah, and these two, that's the thing. These two characters came out of bloody nowhere. Seriously, these characters just suddenly show up in the hall. Oh, it's your turn. You're gonna creep out your mom's boyfriend? Totally, we're into it. We're friends now. Like, and it's just like, I don't know. I just felt, let's not be upset. This movie is moving a bit too fast.
I will give the
I mean, we
Oh.
technically saw him,
I will give
them.
I will give the movie this. It is interesting that they're having a weird bonding time with the toy by creeping people out. It kind of worked, as a bit of foreshadowing for when the toy actually probably will become the villain and whatnot, given how, they're not exactly being the best influence to it, but I guess it also does help the bonding between Andy and Chucky.
Okay. Jova, I need you to explain this to me. They're saying this is for Tupac. What the fuck does this have to do with Tupac? I don't understand what the movie's saying.
Rapper feud, I think, or whatnot.
Also, I get also the idea what they're coming from. The idea of feeding, a rogue an AI that has the ability to learn things.
They're watching a much better movie.
Yeah, wish we could watch.
We could be watching.
Again, I mean, I will say this: I don't find this movie bad. It is very different from the original Child's Play, and mind you, I can definitely see how some fans would not have been happy about this movie, especially since Don Mancini apparently had a beef with the makers of the remake for reasons here and there.
Again,
I didn't specify because he didn't want to get in detail into it.
I will say this, though. To be fair to this movie, I think this movie so far is fine as its own thing, and I will give them this. I do like how they're giving us some...
Chucky's learning.
Yeah,
learning the bad things.
And like Tail noted earlier, this movie doesn't know the meaning of the word subtlety. Don't get me wrong, the original movie was not really at the pinnacle of subtlety either, but I will argue the original film did a better job of being not as overt as this one is.
But again, the idea of feeding an AI the wrong information so that it ultimately, goes AWire, this is something that actually happened in the real world, in minor capacity, obviously not to the point of killer AIs. But it did something like that kinda happen. So a movie capitalizing on that, I don't mind. Just that again, you're attaching yourself onto an existing property that has, a loyal fan base and everything. You are aware of the risks and everything that come with that, instead of being an original IP. Ow.
Ooh.
Oops.
Hey, sure, I just realized.
They
Hey,
put
Joe,
him
I
in
just realized.
timeout.
He looks so sad, but yeah, go on Patreon.
Sure, I just realized something. Chucky's basically the doll equivalent of an obsessive.
You put him in timeout.
Girlfriend who is constantly obsessed with making his or her partner happy.
Yandere Chucky, fantastic.
Yandere Chucky.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So Chucky's a yandere. There you go.
We are considering the mother that's called Karen.
Wait, hold on. What do Karens have to do with yanderes?
So a lot of times doubles as Jova.
Anyway, though, I mean, again, I think this movie is fine enough with its different take on things. I do think it really does depend on, what you're looking for in this
I'll
event.
give you that one movie.
Yes, the fake out.
Honestly, and like with the original Child's Play, the jump scares actually do feel well enough without doing that annoying cliche stuff.
With that sudden bit, okay, with Chucky immediately lightning fast putting himself up there, normally I would make a I'm Batman joke, but he's actually the Joker, so it doesn't work.
Mate, it's a toy cursing.
Oh, there you go, sure. Not only does she not tell the boyfriend that he shouldn't, she also takes his word over Andy, apparently.
Okay,
Yeah,
to her credit, though, he did kind of tell the toy to freak out Rooney.
Well, but does the mom know that?
Well, again, though, the fact that it is kind of right, though, kind of is
right. It is right, like you said, but from the mom's perspective, since she doesn't know this, yeah, it doesn't. From her perspective, it's not. From a general perspective, yes, but
from what we know, the kid is a bit of a troublemaker here and there. Like, again, okay, to be fair, she's still gonna let him play with him occasionally, too. I don't know, I wouldn't call it, a blatant bout where she has no reason, not to trust the boyfriend or the kid and whatnot here and there. It's just that I guess going off of this here and there. Now,
even then,
How much time left in this movie?
I've seen...
That was a half hour?
Only
Yeah.
1 hour, yes.
I've seen much worse cases of the Cassandra Truth trope.
Sure, that's fair. That's not even my main concern. Like, my main concern right now is how the human characters in this version are nowhere near as likable and fun to watch. Like, because again, like me and Jova said yesterday, one of the great things about the original film is that Chucky wasn't the only entertaining character. The human characters were generally well written, and as a result, came across as sympathetic characters. The ones in this movie so far, they're not bad, but they don't really have the same level of quality.
Oh boy.
Please don't tell me more. Oh,
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry,
Shiroi.
Shiroi.
Oh, I looked away at that moment. Fuck you.
yep.
So,
Well, I'm
Shiroi,
glad I did.
so Shiroi, are you going
Alice
to...
is looking daggers at the screen behind me right now.
And by the way, I'm just joking when I say this. I'm just joking. So, Shiroi, are you going to join me and the rest of the hardcore fan base in burning this version of Chucky and celebrating the other one for not killing kitties?
I'm buying the lighters and passing them out.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty.
Into the trash.
I will pay for the travel fare. We are killing this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, about that.
Well, that was a short movie, so that was Child's Play.
Death of a cat in 3 acts.
Oh, that poor cat.
What?
Again, it's Chucky imitating the voice. So
Looks like
Right,
Chucky,
yeah.
looks like Chucky's out there.
Chucky has learned from the Predator to do that. I guess?
Also, guys, not for nothing, but the original Chucky also killed a cat. Just saying.
Oh, sure.
Well, I mean, I'm
Yes?
saying, like, well, you're
Wait,
so.
when?
Well,
in-
I did it in the first movie, Jova, because
Well,
I
no,
my
no,
memory.
No.
Not in the first movie, but he does get to a point. Well,
You remember some of us here haven't seen the movies, Joba.
No. I was speaking in regards to Pedro's thing about
Sure.
celebrating one Chucky over the
Well,
other for not killing
sure.
the cat.
Well, I was talking about in terms of comparing this to the original film. Yeah, obviously, yeah. If you're going to go through the entire timeline, there's going to. I mean, Chucky has killed pretty much everything that's ever been alive by this point.
Okay, if
So-
we're going off that logic, then we do have to realize fans of the original kind of had multiple movies to go off of as opposed to just the one in the case of the
Also,
remake.
a good justification for why Chucky will do that instead of being rogue AI. Ah, okay, fuck this.
Fuck you. If you're... See, and that's another thing. The original film, like we did note, was actually one of the rare instances of a movie that knows how to do jump scares well. This movie doesn't know how to do that.
It's also doing them way too frequently.
Honestly, the
Yeah.
weird thing is
It's
that
like,
it started off
sorry, go on.
fine with the jump scares, but yeah, I hope we don't really start to overdo it.
It's kind of like I think it's Wish Upon the movie with Joe King.
Maybe you should do something, Karen.
I'm just
about
waiting.
this.
I'm
Clearly
waiting
this-
for the next noise this thing's gonna make.
Hey, Karen, maybe you should do something. This guy is clearly not nice. This also goes on to what I was saying earlier. The 1988 Karen would totally tell this guy to fuck off.
Wait, hold on. What did he do? He just said the kid can't be in the same room as him because Andy apparently doesn't like him.
Not to mention, well,
He was just a bit frustrated with that. He hadn't
Yeah.
done anything wrong right there.
I guess.
Yeah. I don't get where you're
The
coming
worst
from.
the
on that,
father,
Pedro.
the worst the father has been is just a stern father to someone who he clearly does not mesh with.
Like,
I mean, I've come from the same background, so I understand.
Oh, please, tell me that Chucky cut
why
his
he's the
dick
enemy,
or
but-
something.
I was gonna say
Hey.
they cut your cats and they cut your dick.
I like to watch you pee.
Although to be fair, in the original movie, as we've seen, Chucky did try to slice the detective's
Yeah.
dick. So
I can kind of get his frustration because, as far as he knows, the kid is using
And
the
now
dog.
he's-
Oh boy.
now he's put into the.
Oh.
Okay. You just that was literally a physical contact. That's not cool.
And I'm getting the idea that it's about to get worse if Chucky doesn't do anything.
I would be more understanding if it was just him. Yeah, look at that face. I don't know. Just when I look at a guy like this,
He looks more like a serial
Like
killer
one
than
step
Chucky.
from actually removing his
All right,
belt.
you're the next
Okay.
victim.
Oh, yeah, it probably is.
See, the reason I look at the stepfather like this because it's clear that the movie wants us to hate the stepfather character.
Okay. Here's the thing. Up until that point, he wasn't doing anything outright dickish, but now he is. Oddly enough. Also,
Oh, she is saying it, yeah.
There you go. Well, that's
Also,
what I said, Sharon. I only saw this movie once, so.
Yeah. I mean, again, to the mother's credit, it's not like she's just letting him get away with random stuff.
Yeah, no, okay. So I've noticed something between the 1988 movie and this movie that I'm immediately annoyed by.
Go on.
The 88 characters that wind up getting taken out, you get attached to them, but you really do feel a little bad for them. In this character, everyone that's getting taken out, as even unfortunately the cat, deserved it in one way or another, and there is no sympathy there's no sympathies going in for this. It's just catharsis.
I wouldn't.
That's because
How dare a cat be a cat and like do a cat thing? It's just
you kind of just know it, Jay. One of the problems I have with a lot of horror movies is how a lot of times make the human characters, well, the non-killer characters, I would say, either dicks or just stupid, so that the audience, as an attempt to try to.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Okay, now,
And-
yeah, he's definitely a dick.
The thing with the cat, it's unfair to the cat because you get to see the cat do one thing and it's scratch Andy.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, the point of the cat is in that regard to
Oh,
show
it's a
that
Christmas movie.
Chucky tends to overreact. Well, I mean, granted, yes, Andy does have a right to be frustrated with that cat because it has apparently been a pain, as we've seen here and there. I do think part of this is to show the point of escalation overall. The cat...
we finally found it. The sequel to Deck the Halls
Still
2006.
finished.
Oh God.
Go on,
How
Joe.
nice. I do think there's a bit of escalation where, again, we see that people who do deserve it or people who don't deserve it in that regard. Which,
Yeah.
okay, to be fair, one could argue that Eddie in the original had it coming, so it kind of balances out here and there.
Oh no, Eddie was a criminal, so he totally had that coming.
Okay, so here's my take on this movie so far here. Like, it's okay. It is not as masterful as the original. However, ow.
Oh.
Whatever, he deserved that anyway.
Okay, that was funny.
Okay,
Yeah, that was actually. Oh, they're fine.
Never mind.
Okay, like honestly, at this point, I'm not sure. Okay, this is not as good as the original, but I do think it's fine enough as its own thing so far. And again, to its credit, it's not like the mother is completely witless or anything about this. Like, even she eventually picks up that, yeah, the boyfriend's being a bit of a dick, and, well, yeah, okay, to be fair, he absolutely does get his, and we see how
Yeah.
much he really deserves it, so... Again, I'm just gonna say this. There have been...
boy.
Oh boy. Oh, I'll give... Okay, I'll give this movie also credit. Like in the original, Chucky is very creative with his kills, I see.
One of the great things about Child's Play is that since your concept is already over the top anyway, it gives you the excuse to be super creative with over the top ways to kill people.
And I am glad that they are keeping that in mind here, because it would have been so boring if it was just strangles or
definitely.
knife thrusts from Chucky.
That being said, Joe, like Jay was also pointing out, and I was about to say, one of the things that I really liked about the original that Jay just pointed out was the fact that the original film did avoid that cliche of having the dick characters. Pretty much all the characters.
Okay, that was an interesting one-liner. Caught between a rock and a hard place.
There you go. Nobody hurts my
Literally
best
got
buddy.
scalped.
You know,
Chucky, do you mind? I'm eating my ice cream.
why did you choose to eat ice cream at this point? It's on you, anyway.
This is for Tupac.
Okay, to his credit, he's repeating what the kid said. Again,
Oh, I get that.
Again, the entire concept is
that.
feeding the AI bad information.
Oh, sure. See, the thing is, the human characters in the original film actually, uncliched like, were all genuinely really likable, or at the very least decent, at worst. You know, which was something that I appreciated. Like it, whereas this movie definitely does have that bit where, yeah, there's going to be the dick characters that are just there for Chucky to kill.
Okay,
Shut
okay,
up, movie.
okay. To be fair, we had our fair share of characters who were definitely dicks in the original, so I wouldn't act like this movie is alone in that. I recall Tio definitely having reservations on the child psychiatrist as well.
That is true. Yeah, you have a point.
All right, hang on. This has to be that face.
There you go. That was the head.
You know,
You wanna say, Shuri?
like the problem with this particular death is like, yeah, the guy had no business, you know, trying to parent this kid. But it feels like everything from the implied abuse, because think about it, before that, we had a scene where he was frustrated that the kid didn't like him, like he wanted to try to make this work, but then we go to that. It feels like they made him like that just so we would cheer Chucky, I guess. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's my thing, Shira. Yeah, they intentionally completely pulled a 180 and made him a complete cheating asshole, who, like you said, also pushed Andy just so we would cheer when Chucky kills him. Which I understand that's a common horror trope. Don't get me wrong, I understand. It's just that I don't know. I feel like
why did you need to do that kind of cue?
Well, wait, what? Bear.
Bear McCreary, the composer. The composer.
To her credit, that is kind of a good point that a lot of people in media don't think of, which, you know, to be fair, Back to the Future, too, pretty much pointed out. Like,
How the hell is it winking at you, you moron? It's dead.
No.
What are you doing?
I think he means it feels like it's winking at him.
What the fuck?
What?
Dress it as a pineapple of sorts.
Well, like a
No. No, basically they're wrapping it so that they can just dump it down the chute.
Yep.
Hilarious. It's an Easter egg.
Found a dragon egg.
Okay, that's the worst skipping school excuse I've ever
wish
heard.
I had that.
No, Pedro. He has really bad diarrhea.
Yeah, I have really bad diarrhea.
I could have been dying, but if it did not add 38.5 Celsius degrees of fever, my parents would still be sent to school.
Hey, Lips. I have a bad case of diarrhea. I have a bad case of diarrhea.
Oh dear.
Spare me,
This poor woman has done nothing wrong.
Okay,
This poor kid has done nothing wrong.
Well,
Wow, how dare a child be upset about a non-parental father figure and a killer doll make his life a nightmare?
Okay, Jay. While he definitely doesn't deserve what's happened, Andy has not exactly been a pure little angel in this movie. That's
You know what?
No,
On
but
second
he's a
thought,
young
that was fine.
teenager.
again. I mean, he has done some pretty mischievous things here. Oh God, this is awkward.
By the way, we've been.
This is someone Adam Sandler's kid.
Sorry, distracted by the movie. We were talking about it not being fair to this movie to compare it to the past one.
We did?
I believe. Halloween 2019 also came out sometime around the same year.
Halloween was 2018.
Oh,
It's a
2018?
sequel, not
Okay.
a reboot.
Yeah, the
Oh,
one
no,
you're
that's
thinking
the one
about is a
that- okay.
sequel.
You took
that
the
movie,
Rob Zombie version.
possibly. That movie, I didn't really have any relation to the original Halloween. Like, I've seen it, but I don't remember it remotely. It can stand on its own because characters are both likable and not, and they all get the axe. In this case, it just kind of targets people who are horrible.
Again, to be fair, it wasn't like the cat was being as horrible. And again, to be fair, we've had, like, what, aside from the cat, one victim. Like, I think we need to see more before we judge on that. That being said, I don't recall anyone saying we can't compare this to the original because, heck, we've been comparing this to the original for quite a bit of time here. Okay, what I said was, like, I do feel like this is fun in doing its own thing in that regard, but I never said anything about, oh, it's unfair to compare this to the original.
Like Theo
Well,
said,
sorry, that's my poor wording. We're not complaining about going back and forth with it and the original one. It's just more, this tries to be its own thing, but also attaches itself too close to the original movie, and it's...
Oh,
Oh,
snap!
I guess it works even in these.
I guess we're gonna deal with the doll.
like Theo said earlier, this probably would, if this movie just decided to be its own thing entirely and not be attached to Child's Play.
Oh
then
my
maybe
God.
The core reactor.
I'm sorry, Chucky, this is the only way. But you're my friend.
We're going to have to remove the arc reactor.
So what's this
Andy,
use
you're
gonna
my
be
best
for
buddy.
reactivating?
So Chucky in this movie is literally an android by Cyberlife from Detroit Become Human. Literally, that thing is just like where the androids keep their batteries.
Admittedly,
seriously.
Okay.
chest batteries are stuff you see a lot for robots in media, so...
Okay, now I'm definitely
This
curious.
garbage shit
The
is
reason
gonna
why
stink.
Chucky kept coming back alive, if I recall correctly, was strictly just because, evil
Really?
possession. Meaning that you can have bullshit magic excuse.
Even still, Jova, let's call this movie let's separate it from Child's Play. Let's call it Chicago Become Human. There you go.
Oh my god.
I wonder what the excuse is gonna be for the doll to come back to life. Oh, please.
Okay, to be fair to this is something that's Alice. Okay, now I guess I'm like Jova said. I will also be fair here. I guess again this is the thing in the series where characters keep reconstructing Chucky over and over because they like the doll.
No,
or
like you
because
said,
whatever
I
reason.
couldn't believe in the original because there was a supernatural element
No,
behind
chill. Believe it or not, though, okay, the supernatural aspect is one thing, but a lot of the reasons Chucky is able to come
Oh.
back is because people keep constructing him after
Wow, this
stuff
guy
happens.
is even creepier than I thought.
Yeah.
Why?
What?
He's literally spying on the.
There was
the
the scene,
apartment,
yeah, there was a scene where you find out he's spying, I think specifically on Karen. I think that was just Karen's
this guy's a
apartment.
creep. Yeah, this guy's a creep. If that's what you're saying, yes. Shiro, you had something to say?
No, it was just the scene earlier. It was like, in hindsight, the cat was okay, I guess.
Okay. So is this Sid after he grew up?
Okay, Jew is...
No, he became a
Maybe
truck
it's
driver.
that guy from the Brave Little Toaster.
No. That's the thing, Joe. Maybe this is Sid from that alternate timeline where Sid never got that scare from Woody in Toy Story 1.
I'm so glad we didn't get that version of the movie.
Yeah.
Wait
Well,
for
actually-
the live action remake, Shiro.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll have a live action remake of Toy Story at some point that does that, maybe.
God, that would be terrible.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it's interesting, sure. There actually already is a fan-made live-action remake, and it's really good. You can watch it on YouTube. The guy basically took these official Woody and Buzz dolls and made a remake of it. You can watch it
I'll
on
look
YouTube.
at that.
So it seems that his mother is
Yeah,
finding
that's a
out...
big mood.
Seems that his mother's finding out the hard truth about her boyfriend.
Which one? The fact that he was a cheater or the fact that he's dead?
Yes.
Both.
That is a double whammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, I'm gonna have to also say I feel like this movie would have been stronger if we actually had that moment between the two of them that we just saw last longer. Have a genuine bonding moment with them. That scene just went on by way too fast.
Hold on, what scene you talking about?
Between Andy and his mom.
Yeah, where Andy put his head like that would have been a great opportunity to have a little moment where she, I'm sorry I didn't realize this sooner or something like that. From this point on, it's just the two of us or something like that.
Oh, okay. This guy has multiple Oh, so wait, is this guy like security detail as well? And that's why
he's the janitor that is
Hold
fixing
on. The
appliances.
Catherine app. Listen to this.
Okay, so I do wonder if people... Okay, apparently these people specifically have the cameras in their apartments for security, so I wonder if he's extra security...
Hijacking.
No, not hijacking necessarily. I wonder if he is the security maintenance guy for this, and that's why he has the cameras here and there as opposed to being a creep.
It still feels weird being able to spy 24/7 the personal life of these people for these.
They shouldn't be in the homes. They should just be in the hallways, right?
Yeah, they should.
Oh, okay. Unless the people specifically wanted the camera in their apartment. And to be fair, I assume that... Okay, given how big we've seen the cameras to look, I would assume that they wanted the cameras in there or must know about it. Otherwise...
Oh, we don't know yet about the death. Oh no.
Stretch Armstrong.
It's sure to be...
Introducing Johnny Long Torso.
Oh, great. Let's open it. See what it is.
No, hold on. Only until his birthday. So that's it.
Am I right?
So I guess in this version we get to meet Mike Harris's mom.
Wait, did we ever hear anything bad about you? I don't.
No, I don't think so.
I must have lost track of something. Like, when did we ever have some kind of?
No, it's because he's a cop.
They also had a conversation before where the cop was talking when Andy was just hanging around in the hallway, and you can tell that there wasn't the most amicable conversation.
Probably. He's just making small talk.
I guess this guy is really, really lonely. Like, seriously, that line, like, even the hearing impaired don't want to listen to me. This is fantastic.
Look, as somebody...
This man has just been making knockout lines the entire time he's here. That's what he's here for.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sherry?
Listen, as somebody who has met several deaf people in my life, if they don't want to hear you, they'll just take the thing out.
Oof.
Yep.
Like,
It's like
oh, new arc reactor.
So,
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
I'm on
but we don't want to spend a lot of money.
Yep.
So I'm on 2 now.
Oh, and he's now hijacking the Kazan.
Why is there a...
Charming.
Yeah, Joe, I get the idea these were not intentional.
Is this secretly a movie adaptation of Snatcher? Like,
Well, it won't be for long.
That's another thing. Chucky is almost a heroic figure in this movie because he's killing just assholes.
Well, again, guys, this is like, what, his third kill now? Again, like...
Oh my god, Joe, but this is basically Home Alone 6 horror edition now that I think about it, because the Home Alone 6 also had that shit with the Alexa thing, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's turned into a picture in the background.
Okay.
Turn on the damn lights yourself.
This
Turn
guy,
into FNAF now.
this guy looks and sounds like every generic, overly neurotic nerd villain person.
He looks like a bearded Dennis Nedry.
Oh, there you go.
Oh!
Oh god. I really wish they would show more of the gore there, because I don't know.
Wait,
That's
was
the
this?
thing. We had seen enough, not
Okay,
enough,
yeah.
but we had seen plenty with the first kill. I hope they're keeping up.
Oh, there you go. Now it's better.
Welcome to Chuck's, or I guess.
Why
my
are you
God.
doing
Oh
this?
my-
I want to see guts, damn it.
I mean, I'm personally don't really, I'm not really squeamish towards gore in movies personally. I'm fine with it, but I understand if some people are.
The thing
You
is,
got
this is
yourself
all.
in this situation.
Yes, Shira?
The thing is, this is all fine for me, but the kid vomiting earlier was way too much.
Well, to be fair to that kid, Shura, he did just see a severed head.
Okay, now
The
okay, now-
sound of people vomiting really bothers me.
yeah, now it's a good time for me to bring this up. Yeah, he just raised the temperature on the Kazlan thingy. Okay, let's take away the behavioral pattern shit together. We've already talked about that. Who the fuck thought it was a good idea to give these dolls the ability to control nearby machines?
Again, like I said, the meat replications, dude.
I can understand the whole cloud downloading thing. I can understand basically making it like as if it's a computer, except it's a doll. I understand that. But literally giving it the ability to control all Bluetooth devices
Okay.
or whatever it is in the
Okay.
area,
That-
that's just
Pedro?
asking for
Trying to
trouble.
modernize
Okay,
it, I guess.
Yeah.
To be fair, that's literally what Alexa does. It's just that this one's a doll.
I guess I'm just too old for this kind of thing because I just find that creepy. To be
Okay.
honest with you.
In regards to what Shiori said earlier about it, I blame for buying ice cream to watch a horror movie. I did buy ice cream to watch a movie, but I forgot it was this one.
Oh,
So?
so it was your fault.
Yeah.
What a
I would have
story,
just put it
Chuck.
back in the freezer by that point.
Well, no, I'm hardcore. I ate it all.
Couldn't be me.
I ate all of it.
Speaking of, by the way, Liz, while you're at it, might as well say something, talk something with you about yesterday. Okay, so, well, your primary concern with the original film is that it was entertaining, but it wasn't scary. Okay, and yeah, we all concede that. Okay, here's the thing. One thing I think you will, at the very least, give it the original is that the original did a good job in building up atmosphere and tone and all that stuff. This movie, I'm guessing you probably will argue is even worse in terms of the whole scare factor thing. What do you think?
Actually, I think the whole slightly better here.
Yeah,
All right.
I can kind of get it. Like, I mean, the original definitely, okay, it earned its R rating, but with this one, they definitely go way less. How to put it like this? The kid gloves are definitely more off with this one and its violence here and there, to the point where, god dang, like this could give Saw a run for its money.
I mean, I guess if you're talking about strictly violence, I guess. But to me, horror is at its best when it's relying entirely on atmosphere, build up, And I feel like this movie doesn't really do any of that.
There are all different types of horror here and there. Like, okay, I will say this. The original Child's Play definitely felt like it's trying to keep you guessing about the doll, which is weird because, from what you've shown me, the marketing was all about, oh yeah, it's obvious the doll is going to be the killer. And admittedly, there was only so much they could do with that. Now, mind you, what they did with that was still great, but I can definitely tell that this movie definitely is taking advantage of the fact that people are certain that that doll is going to do stuff, so yeah, they definitely take it to a whole new level.
Okay, Jova, explain this to me. Does Alexa have the ability to literally project recorded footage into TVs on a random place like this?
Yes. As long as it's
Really?
connected to the system. Well, okay. I think you have to set it to the system here and there. Although, to be fair, when it comes to Chucky here, obviously he is outside the norm.
Yeah, that's the thing, because Chucky takes over any kind of system that he comes across in this movie.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm guessing
Okay.
that phone's going to be a plot point for later.
Okay. Did I miss something? Why are they
Yes, puppet stands.
Okay, did I miss something here? Why are they fighting?
Because he punched his hearing aid off him, and yeah, he deserves
No,
a punch. for
why
that.
was that? Why was that other kid confronting him about?
Because Andy wanted to actually tackle on Chucky, but the other kid did not wanted that. Caught in 4K.
You know, okay, about the original movie, was that just a product of the time? Because it seems very tame for an R rating.
The original movie? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's incredibly tame for an R movie.
It's weird. Like, movies were simultaneously softer on the age rating, but also harder on it as well.
Yeah.
It's
It
weird.
also has to do. It also has to do, Shu, with the fact that the original film, being the original, obviously didn't had the lowest budget because it was an unproven new IP at the time. So obviously they weren't too. So obviously the filmmakers had to do the best they had with what they got. They couldn't exactly have too elaborate fighting and action scenes gore because that would require more money that they probably didn't have. So that's why the original film, instead of going, gory as hell, instead decided to rely more on atmosphere and build up and all that good
I
stuff.
think it did really well.
It did do that well.
Exactly. Whereas this movie, like Jova said, is clearly going more for the gore
Which
side of the spectrum.
Which, you know what? To be fair, if that's what it wants to go for and at least do it well, fair beans. But again, it definitely does come down to what is more your taste in that here and there. Okay, I will admit, it is kind of interesting how we can see the perspective from the Chucky doll using the app here. That's actually kind of clever.
It's kind of like the robot in Red Planet.
Which
I get this movie probably would have been better received if it was just its own thing and not be attached to Child's Play at all.
Well, again, from what I've seen, it's not like this was even received negatively. Mixed in regards of viewers' bases and apparently mainly positive. Oh, I think we're about to get a kill of somebody who's not a jerk. Ah, the Caslin car. You know,
Oh no.
okay, believe it or not, automated cars are actually becoming a thing, so...
Yeah.
This is far more commonplace.
I mean, call me an old fart if you want, but the whole idea of one computer system, in this case, Caslin, controlling every single device out there, that's incredibly creepy and scary to me. I don't want
Pedro, is now a bad time to tell you that's more or less what Amazon is doing with the Alexa system.
Yeah.
Reminder that Pedro uses a very old phone and doesn't really
The
do all this new
Simpsons had
tech
an
shit.
episode about an
Actually, sure,
automated house that takes over
Actually,
the
sure,
family.
that's the thing. My brother bought me a new proper phone with a touchscreen, so now I actually have one of those too.
Okay. So to Doreen Norris's credit here, she's old and probably isn't as capable of driving on her own, so I can get how an automated car might help in that regard.
Oh, sure, I get that. I'm just saying that me personally, I just find this entire idea horrifying, and I don't want that near me.
Pedro, trust me, Pedro. A lot of people were with you when Amazon announced the whole drone thing.
I'll give this movie credit. This whole thing is more horrifying than that thing in that bit in that Sontaran episode of the revived Doctor Who series where they have the Atmos sat nav wired through the cars and it can drive you to your death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me explain that.
It's like that, but it's the car itself, not just the box wired through it.
Let me explain my perspective real quick on a general term. The reason my favorite horror movie is The Shining, and I don't particularly care much for The Exorcist in comparison, is because The Shining to me is exactly how you should do.
Okay, that's a new one.
Sorry, continue, Pedro.
Indeed. The Shining to me is a great example of how horror can be done. Again, that movie has not really any gore. It relies entirely on atmosphere, on a great setup, a great location, Jack Nicholson's brilliant performance. It's entirely reliant on suspense that builds to the eventual time when shit hits the fan. That to me is how you should do horror, to me. Whereas something like The Exorcist, I don't find The Exorcist scary, unlike most people. I just find it funny because whenever the character, the girl being possessed, starts saying that creepy voice and even starts twisting her head and vomiting, I just find that over the top ridiculous and funny to me, because it's just so over the top with it, whereas a lot of people find that scary, and I understand. It's just that to me, horror is at its best when it's being done Shining style, Kubrick style.
Going back to what Dwib said, I also do like how one thing this movie does do great is playing into the fears of what could happen if we do become a little too reliant on technology. I'll admit, okay, hold on. When I first heard that this was going to be about that, I kind of groaned, but I'll give it credit. I do feel that this movie is doing it well enough without necessarily saying, oh no, all technology is bad, because, to be fair, the characters are still using some technology here and there to deal with the doll, figure out what the doll's up to or whatnot, so... No, and I think what helps the fear factor of this is that this is scarily realistic. Like, just replace Chucky with Alexa. We've even got, automated cars these days, one of which has actually killed a person in Arizona, mind you. So... Yes, Joy?
Go on.
I feel like, that message is that whole thing, I wouldn't say message. It's there, but I'd say it's more subtext than anything. This movie still seems to be ultimately about a killer doll.
Pretty much, yeah. Which definitely... okay, I'll say
I was expecting something a little more, ramming the message down your throat thing, but no, that's not what this is at all.
Well, okay, keep that in mind for the climax here, because we're not done yet. Second, I don't know. To me, I just find this kind of thing in a Child's Play movie to be just unnecessary. To me, Child's Play should never be any more complicated than just there's a killer doll on the loose. That's it.
To its credit, it's a remake and it's trying something different. Like, if we just had it once again being this or that, then some people might be talking about how it's too much of the same thing. Mind you, I'm not saying that they couldn't have done something different enough with a killer once again possessing the doll here and there, but again, when it comes to remakes that are doing something similar but want to do it different enough, I get where this movie is coming from and going, and again... Honestly, so far, I'm fine with it. Also, yeah, Chucky is using psychological torture to show that, yeah, he's in the same room as his friends and he can kill them whenever.
I will say, okay, I would have liked that previous scene more, the guy finding out his wife is dead and wants revenge. I just wish it lasted longer than 10 seconds.
Also, Dwibs,
the one with,
Also, Dwibs, that's his mother, not his wife.
Yeah, that's my ex-mom.
Yeah.
Yes, they've mentioned it several times in the movie.
Well, that's the thing. I can actually understand Dwibs right now because, like I said, like Dwibs himself has put it out, the movie goes by so fast that it's kind of hard to really get attached to the characters and really get a good grasp on them.
Honestly, we did have a scene hanging on them clearly stating that she's his mom. I do think that may be a point of paying attention in that regard.
I was on more about the well, speaking of paying attention, I was more on the
why did it only show for 10 seconds?
Where he was sad about it for like 10 seconds and it just cut to this bit.
Honestly, to me, it's one of those things where I just find this remake unnecessary. Much like a lot of remakes.
Yeah, where
Hollywood.
Child's Play did too little, the original, this remake does too much.
Again, I will say this, I'm having a fine enough time with it. Like, I feel like this remake is not really... Well, okay, again, not counting whatever happened behind the scenes between Dom and the makers, but no, in terms of as its release, I wouldn't say it was like this movie was hurting the franchise in any way. And I'd say as its own line, it's a fine enough remake. Again, I'm not finding anything egregiously wrong about it. I was worried about certain things, but I do feel like it's handling them well enough. Now, granted, I can absolutely get why someone who preferred the original more mystical take would probably not care for this direction. On the other hand, I can totally get why somebody would be a-okay fine with this. Like, let me put it like this. This is not the usual bastardizations we've seen with stuff like certain Disney remakes or whatnot, or, stuff like the god-awful Total Recall remake. No, this one,
Yeah.
I feel like its changes, at the very least, when it makes its changes, it sticks with them and has stuff relatively coherent enough.
Yeah, this bit here. I'll have to talk about this bit. This bit where the girl even grabs him and like, just tell me where he is, then because she's trying to help Andy. We didn't really spend enough time with the three of them together, bonding friendship to really find this believable to me. I just don't really. They're just friends just because.
Okay,
mostly.
to be fair, we
I mean,
have
had that one scene.
we have
of
had
them watching the movie, yes, but that's not enough.
more than that. Actually, we have had a bit of a montage of them getting together here and there. Like, I can get why they consider them friends, and okay. To be fair to her, Pedro, friend or not, I think I can understand the high concern of wanting to keep it from someone she knows getting murdered by a doll.
Hey, Joe, there.
Yes.
You mentioned reasons why some people might actually not think this movie's that bad. I know if Don Mancini saw this movie, I know one thing he'd like about this version.
And that is.
No voodoo.
Yeah. Which,
Um,
okay, to be fair, that is a bit of a stigma the series has to stick with in that regard. Yes, they don't mention it as much in the sequels, but voodoo and, that dark magic is the whole reason that series is a thing.
To be fair to the sequels, one particular thing I really like in Bride of Chucky, the fourth movie, basically, Shiroi, don't worry, this is not a spoiler because it's the beginning. Basically, Shiroi, the sequel, the fourth movie literally starts with Jennifer Tilly, who's playing an obsessive Charles Leroy fangirl who wants to revive him, and she's doing a satanic ritual to try to revive Chucky into the doll, and she's literally reading a book called Voodoo for Dummies. So, So to be fair, Jova, as that moment in Blood of Chucky proved, I will argue that we can still have a reference and be.
Why do you attack this one?
Oh boy, yeah. So he was stopped right before he was about to go on, and
Oh, don't.
There we go.
Also, Bear, really, with the bomb.
I hope
Also,
that family can afford therapy.
Also, Teo, that guy also has a porn stash, kind of. Yeah. That being said, I will say this. This is one thing that I will definitely stand my ground on.
Oh, snap.
Speaking specifically of Chucky himself, I would in a million times take OG Chucky over this one, because this Chucky to me is just not interesting. He's a killer doll, yes, but he doesn't have nowhere near the interesting personality and fun factor that the original Chucky has.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. This movie has kind of annoyed me because you don't feel sympathetic for the killer since it's a doll that didn't have any life in the first place. You don't really still feel sympathetic for the people that are going out, except for the poor mom who just said she loved Andy for, helping him out.
Again.
Helping her out.
That's the thing.
I don't know. It's just, there's nothing to attach to, so I'm sitting here being annoyed.
To be fair, Jay, again, we've had 4 victims, 2 of which were not technically a-holes, 2 of which were a-holes, so technically it's evened out so far. Oh boy.
It's time. The catchphrase, guys. He just said the catchphrase. It's time to play. He said it.
well, it's hey, I'll give it this. The kills are at least as creative.
Sure.
And again, I wouldn't say that Chucky is exclusively going after just dicks and a-holes here and there. Like, no, we are seeing people likewise here and there get here and there. Oh boy.
Yes, Teo.
Also, unless it's doing that in the last 5 minutes, Mark Hamill is so unfitting for this role. Like, he could have been, not in the sense that he's bad, but he could have been literally anyone else, and he would have been just fine.
I was gonna save it.
Oh, go on, Sherry.
I was gonna save it for my final thoughts, but yeah, I agree. It's like one thing that really takes me out of this movie is taking the humanity from the doll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes
That's
him
like the
way
biggest thing for me about this.
It makes the character way. He's not even a character, not really. That's the great thing about Chucky. The great thing that makes Chucky so iconic and beloved is the fact that he's there. He's a great character. He's not a character in this version. Go on.
I actually do like this movie to an extent, but like that is the biggest thing for me with it.
When it comes to Chucky, yeah, he is essentially Skynet. If you're into that, I get it, but no, I will say this. I'm liking this movie, but I absolutely understand preferring the original Chucky.
This is a better Terminator movie than the one that came out the same year.
Pretty much, yeah, definitely.
Like that's hard.
Okay.
But no, that's the thing. To me, okay, here's the thing. I will stand my ground on this one as well. The most important thing about Child's Play is Chucky himself. He's the heart of the franchise. You have to get Chucky right. If you don't get Chucky right, and this movie, I will argue, doesn't really get Chucky right. Even it doesn't. Sorry.
I'm fine with this movie's take on Chucky, but I definitely prefer the original series' take on Chucky.
Also, I'm guessing that climax takes place now in the shopping. No.
Yes, in this shop. Yeah.
No, I guess not because we're exiting.
Not so fast though.
I will at the very least give it that I do enjoy the fact that it's Andy who has to kill Chucky in this version because again it harkens back to Child's Play 2. So that's actually at the very least fine. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I really like the cop in the original film. Again, is a really good cop character, like I've talked about. But I do at the very least appreciate the idea that in this version it's Andy who has to take down Chucky.
Yeah, I mean, I will give him credit. Andy has more agency in this movie than he did have in the original Child's Play. And to be fair, that's something even the original series sort of, fixed with Child's Play 2, so
yes,
kudos there.
By the time we got to Child's Play 2, Don Mancini was the only writer. So by the time we got to Child's Play 2, he had full creative control.
Honestly...
Like he does to this day.
Honestly, like with stuff in The Shining, I have to wonder, how aware was the child actor of, the violence in the actual movie he was starring in?
Well, Alex actually as in his behind the scenes stuff for the streaming series, he did talk about how he's kind of surreal to him that I started this when I was doing 6 and I'm still doing it to this day. So he really enjoys being back in this role. So...
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no. I mean, I never doubt that he enjoyed the role. What I'm wondering is, as a child actor, did they have any tricks to, hide the fact that it was a horror film from the kid or whatnot?
I mean...
Again, like with The Shining, you know what I mean.
I guess to some extent, probably, but considering there's an entire scene where Andy literally burns Chucky to death, probably not all of it, considering,
Okay. Now here, I am digging Mark Hamill's performance. I think the point of Hamill's performance is to show that Chucky starts off as more robotic, but as the film goes, gets more emotional here and there, showing how realistic he's becoming in terms of acting like a human.
Oh, sure. When it comes to Mark Hamill's performance, I will agree with you there. The actual character himself, to me, just doesn't really have much of a personality to begin with.
Here's my take. I like this take on Chucky. I still prefer the original, though. I feel like these two could possibly coexist as, their own specific lines and whatnot. But, yeah.
That's the venture of according to Don Mancini. If this movie had really taken off, it would have replaced the original, apparently.
Well, okay. let's also remember he kind of got booted off mid-project here and there, or something happened, so he might not know all the details. And again, like, from all the attributes seen from the box office to the reception,
Finally, Mark Hamill starts acting.
like I mentioned to you, he is becoming more emotional as the course of the movie
I
goes.
just
But
wish this happened before.
I honestly feel like it has been happening over the course of it. But again, back to my point, though. Also, that's neat that he distracted him with the Buddy song. But again, going after this movie from reception and the box office, I'm actually surprised they didn't go for a sequel because, I mean, this movie literally made over 4 times its budget. Like, usually movies tend to, go sequel with that here and there.
Yeah. That's the thing, Jova. Well, okay. I mean, as far as I can tell, no, Don Mancini didn't ever actually worked in this movie whatsoever. Because remember, he was busy with the proper Chucky movies.
Okay, that was CGI.
I mean, Brad Smith was originally going to play Chucky, but Don Mancini himself was never at any point involved because remember he was developing his own Chucky movies. So.
It's weird. Like, normally, we get a better picture of, them canning a movie because it didn't do as well. But, again, this movie seems like it did well. And mind you, I'm still glad with the scenario we got. The original series is still going on with the Chucky series, which is great. I'm just legit confused, because normally, by Hollywood mentality, this would have gotten a sequel, since, again...
Yeah.
It wasn't outright hated, plenty of people liked it, and it made, again, over 4 times its budget. Like, unless, were they expecting to make, like, over $100 million off of a $10 million budget movie? Not saying that that's impossible and whatnot, but, I don't know.
Well, isn't that what Paranormal Activity did, the original movie, if I remember correctly?
Paranormal Activity is kind of an anomaly in that regard, though, an anomaly that they've been trying to replicate, but yeah.
Oh god.
Oh!
CGI. Now we use CGI for some shots.
Okay, I mean, in some cases I could get them.
Hey, he said the line.
There it is.
I mean, it's not like Chucky throughout the whole movie was CGI. Besides, besides, a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, I don't mind CGI as long as this."
Oh, fatality!
Basically, yeah. That being said, yeah, I'm with Tay on this one. This is the end line here. Nowhere near as cool as in the original.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to agree with that. Cool in the original.
It's one of those things okay, let me put it this way. According to Mancini, this would have replaced the original. Maybe that's why Don Mancini wasn't keen on the producers of this movie, because they genuinely wanted to replace his franchise. Maybe that's why. And as a big fan of the original franchise, I'm glad that this didn't take off, because we wouldn't have the Chucky streaming series. So
that's the thing, though. At this point,
MGM
and Amazon weren't the same group yet. So remember, this was just MGM, so they would have had no control over the rest of the franchise, because MGM only owned this movie.
So maybe you're thinking that maybe what happened was Amazon, when Amazon took over, they preferred OG Chucky, and that's why the sequel never went anywhere.
Okay, so I guess to their credit, Kazlan is recalling all the Buddy products, like, look.
And I guess they all turned
3,
red-eyed.
2, 1.
Give it a couple more seconds.
Sting? There it is.
There we go.
So, yeah. Now it's this. So okay. Like, as speaking as a huge fan of the original franchise, I am at the very least happy that it didn't replace it. This didn't replace it. Like, if the two coexisted, like Jovis and I was speaking, I would be at the very least fine with it. If the two could, now the idea of this one replacing the OG one, no, I'm sorry, I don't like that.
I will say this also, given where the series was at the time, I would have been disappointed with this replacing the original. Not for the same reasons, though, only because the original at this point, if I recall correctly, the original had left off on Cult of Chucky, which has a major cliffhanger. So, yeah if this had been replacing the original series, that cliffhanger would have gone unanswered, and thankfully
Also,
now it is.
Of course, you have Mark Hamill singing in the
You
credits.
know one cool thing, Shirai, about the streaming series? It has a really cute a male LGBT teenage couple. They did a really good job with the representation thing. And Don already announced for season 2 that now he wants to do trans representation as well. And again, he says that he's very committed to try to do it well, like he did in the first season with so yeah, and they managed to do it well, actually. So again, the streaming series is really good. I definitely recommend watching it. It's basically
watch
a
it
love
after
letter
you've seen the movies.
Oh, definitely, because it's basically a big love letter to the OG fans. Don Mancini even made it specifically clear, we're returning to the tone of Child's Play 2 because fans have been asking for that. Don is really cool about appeasing the fans, but yeah, that was Child's Play 2019. But
Yeah, honestly, I don't think this was that bad. I mean, it's not. I mean, in a lot of aspects, it's not as good as the original, like the characterization. But I'd argue the actual horror itself is better conveyed. Like you see a lot more of the damage Chucky is doing, not just like cutting people's limbs off.
The psychological damage as well.
That too. There's also the psychological one, basically just toying with the main character. Like, oh yeah, you see, I know where everyone is, and I can kill them anytime I wish, just like that cop's mom. Right? Yeah. Okay. And to be honest, that's in terms of like my favorite kill scenes. The scene where Chucky's just toying with the mob of the cop in the car is the most effective one. But again, because it shows that Chucky doesn't this version of Chucky, I should say, doesn't necessarily need to jump on people or just stab them all the time. No, because of his connection to the I guess the Bluetooth or the technology and all the other things, he could just use that to kill people. And so he just tortures Doreen psychologically by causing the car that she's in to drive manically out of control. And just when she thought she was safe after surviving a crash, she gets stabbed to death.
Yeah, like, it gives you that little false spout of hope that maybe she'll be alright, because, she didn't deserve this. Nope!
Yeah, because, that's the thing, because you have to be really careful. If you have your main villain just kill dickheads, then it's kind of hard to be against the villain, because you see, I mean, yeah, it's a bit brutal, but he's been killing people that deserve it. So I'm not seeing what's so unspeakably atrocious about him that we have to kill him. So, so at the very least, I'm glad that it also extends to people that don't deserve death. So it make it okay. This guy's going down.
Yeah, that's actually one of the big problems I have with a lot of slasher movies. Because when you take and see a movie like Friday the 13th, like Theo said, like a lot of times the camp counselors and the overall humans that Jason is after are always either very stupid or complete dickheads that you can tell are just there for Jason to kill. But that's one of the big reasons why I appreciate the original Child's Play, and to a lesser extent maybe this one, because the overall the entire cast of characters of the original Child's Play is really likable, and as a result, like you said, you do root against the villain.
Yeah.
So I guess Bear McCree just woke up. Where was Discord in the movie?
But the funny thing is, you don't just root for the villain in the original CP. Because
I love Chucky. So
Chucky is a character you love to hate, is what it becomes.
Exactly. Go on, Dos.
The music I think it's a bit better than the music in the original. Not by much, but yeah, I mean, at least it's not. At least it's not. How does a synthesizer work? The score.
Yeah.
The 80s was the era of sim scores. Those.
Again, John Carpenter had nothing but a piano and synthesizer in 1978 and did the score better.
Oh
With a
yeah,
bullshit strap.
John Carpenter is a genius.
And bear in mind, apparently he can't read or write musical notes. The effects for the kills, and Chucky himself looks really, really good. Yeah, and I get why in some cases he's CGI because, well, I mean, there's things you just can't do practically. So
Sure.
What's good is that it's definitely not always clear where they use the CGI. Like, yeah, there's that one blatant moment, but otherwise the mix between animatronic and CGI is very cleverly done.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
What about the fast pacing, Dibs? Like you.
that's one issue this movie has. I think a lot of characters speak their lines really, really, and again, the most example of the too fast of a pacing that this movie has is the bit where the cop is mourning the death of his mom for like 10 seconds, and then that's it. We just cut away. Like we see more anguish, but that was like 10 seconds. Okay, that's it. That's my biggest problem with the movie. The pacing is a bit too fast. But other than that, he's fine. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the original continuity goes on, mainly because I've heard that particular continuity also has some lesser moments. But then again, a horror franchise has been going on for 34 years at this point. You're bound to run into
trust me, there's like even when the Chucky, even when the main series is at its worst, there's always some really good, at the very least, some good redeeming. Again, Brad Dourif himself is always there to, at the very least, be the one beacon of entertainment. And even then, I will argue that Chucky movies are at the very least always entertaining despite their flaws. But,
well, we'll have to see when we get there. But overall, this was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, Wibbs, the fourth movie literally starts with an obsessive fangirl of Chucky trying to revive him with a Voodoo for Dummies book. That's just hilarious to me.
Yeah.
And again, like I was saying in the job, yeah, that's another example of how you can still incorporate the voodoo in a way that doesn't feel bad. I will argue that's a good way. I will argue to incorporate the voodoo thing.
I actually did like this enough. I feel like it's pretty. I feel like it's pretty decent with the horror stuff. It's clearly a lot more gory. It's a bit more typical horror, but I still enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than a lot of other typical horror movies we get these days.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't think the whole consumerism thing was that intrusive, even at the end. It was fine. Like they did have that whole message at the end thing from the CEO, I guess. What's his name? But that was really the only time where they addressed it that directly. Otherwise, it was just subtext, and that was fine. That was fine for me. I don't dislike the characters, but they still don't feel as like I don't really get the connections between them as much as the original movie.
You don't get to know them as much, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I can believe the relationships that they have with each other, depending on the character, but I just don't feel for them as much as the old ones. And I feel like it helped that it was a much smaller cast as well.
Yeah.
There's too many people, and they didn't do enough with any of them. Also, making characters do a 180 just to make us happy that they're dead. I don't appreciate that. That was not good.
And Chucky himself, like you and I have been talking about the whole humanity thing.
I feel like this movie should have been its own thing. You can still do the whole, the plot could be the same. It's just again, removing the humanity was the big mistake for this. It was nowhere near as interesting because of that. What else?
Like the kills being creative.
Yeah, no, like the kills were still creative. That was fine. Like I did enjoy this movie. It's just I'm just gonna say it's not a good Chucky movie, even though I've seen a total of 2 of them, and they were quite different from each other. But
Oh,
still,
trust
it's
me,
just,
every movie has its own special flavor in a way.
Oh yeah.
sure.
Like I
But
said, like I said, voodoo for dummies. Go on, sure.
that's it really. It's like it was enjoyable enough. But that's it, I guess.
Sure. Question. To give you an idea, when it comes to Child's Play 2, again, going back to the original continuity, there's literally like one of the most iconic scenes from that movie is Chucky killing a mean teacher with a ruler. Like, trust me, you still have a lot of cool stuff to see in the original timeline.
Oh sure. But yeah,
all
that's it for me for the
Go ahead, Jay.
See you guys.
So, yeah.
So as a writer, I tend to have a set of rules that I tend to follow, and one of it is the little things tend to help breathe life into a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it disappoints me greatly as to how I wound up receiving Child's Play, the 2019 variant, because I don't like this movie. I'm actually in the minority in this case. This movie is...
I don't like it either, Jay. So you.
Oh, okay.
You're with me. So.
This movie is surface level, is what I'm going to put it as. Detach it from the initial Child's Play, and even then, it doesn't really stand up on its own. A lot of characters are portrayed as existent, simply to be there as a stand-in, or unlikable. When we initially get the Andy character, never mind the fact that the first time we meet young Andy, he's sloppily trying to make breakfast for his mom without really a goal set for reward or anything like that.
Yeah,
in this case, we get an Andy that's...
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it has its problems in and of itself. You get Andy's a sweet kid.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it gets more and more and more as it develops. And you get it with this teenage Andy as well. But he starts off as this staunch, unapproachable type of kid that's far too into his own world rather than unable to approach other people, which is actually a good starting plot point, but it doesn't get to naturally develop. It's just more like cookie cutter type of ordeal. Every character in the first 10 minutes you meet is just not fun in one way or another. And the very opening scene with the Vietnamese man putting in the chip, the toy maker, before jumping off. First off, that is just a unusual type of fridging. And secondly, again, it comes with this idea that he didn't put these dangerous tendencies into a Chucky doll. He reactivated them.
I wouldn't say it was actively put in the chip. Here's my take on it. It's more like just about a bit of a silly pretense, but I feel like the whole violence thing was a precaution because of the growing dangers of AI. And to be fair, violence tendencies could have been a codename because, believe it or not, even in real life, sometimes AI tech has gotten out of hand and in some cases has killed people. So it has the capability, but it's not inherently there, is the idea with this thing here and there. And I do think that it is a point of irony that in the end his friends kind of accidentally teach Chucky some of the minor fashions of killing. And mind you, once he's learned enough, then Chucky starts to ramp things up on his own. It's like he starts off with little agency, but then pretty much gains agency of his own.
Now, normally I'd certainly give you your point there, but there was also the matter of turning off safety protocols, behavioral module. There's just a lot of things that, okay, it would make sense that you'd put it in this chip of a smart doll. And then this one attachment piece. And
it's what kickstarts the movie, and it's just odd. It's jarring. It's got no reason to be there, but it is the turning pebble that it's the pebble that leads into the Rolling Stones, and it's just not. I guess not fair isn't the right term, but it's there to be a MacGuffin for the movie. That chip is what causes the whole problem. Turn off the behavioral patterns, and yes, Chucky then starts figuring out bad habits and just bad behavior in general. It does lead. I'm jumping points, but it does lead into great psychological horror. That is some of the best bits to this movie. The character acting is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The atmospheric horror that they use, aside from cheap jump scares, is fantastic in setting, but this story is a wet paper bag, and it just falls apart.
To give one final counterpoint here, to their credit, them admitting that these toys have these protocols put in there, I think that that's covering a plot hole, because think about it like this. The toys do have these capabilities. If suddenly, so say we had this bout where the AAs have this capability, I think then everyone and their mother would be asking, if it's as capable as this, why on earth would this company be putting out stuff that can easily just, attack you? And to be fair, stuff like this having protocols against violence, there is some reality in that here and there, again, with how AI tech has unfortunately gone even a little haywire in the real world here and there. So I don't really find that as much of an ass-pull MacGuffin so much as I do it just being a plot point that admittedly does seem silly, but is about of truth in television, as TV tropes would put it. Oh, mind you, if this is still a bit over the top in regards to it, given how it's literally a killer doll who goes all Skynet on stuff, so I could say that might facilitate why they kind of have to be a bit over the top on it, and perhaps simplify it better for, most folks to understand it.
But that's the funny thing to that matter, because right there, that's actually a really good plot point. Why? But then it begs the question, why is it just the one doll?
Well,
for what we know, Andy's mom works at a store where these CarNet, whatever the company was called,
Kelson.
Where these things are active
Caslin.
everywhere. Caslin, thank you. That's, you know what? Writers Write for Mark, that's a good name. These Caslin machinery is everywhere, and we know that it is the mechanical soul, the Papillion heart, if you will, of the doll that winds up causing so much trouble.
Yes.
So it's weird that it doesn't wind up following Andy when he's visiting his mom at the Toy Mart, and it doesn't start affecting other dolls or anything like that.
Actually,
this movie doesn't entirely, up until the third act breakdown, this movie doesn't really know what it wants. It wants to keep the iconic Chucky doll as its main problem for the entire movie. But then at the very third act, it decides, wait a minute, there are other dolls like Chucky. Let's make them all evil.
I would argue
lost it.
I would argue that actually the movie does know what it wants. Like, if it was just using all the dolls from the get-go, that would be essentially them blowing their load early. They saved the whole Skynet breakout thing for the climax, and also to show us the full range of Chucky's hacking capabilities here and there, which also works as foreshadowing for how he could potentially come back in a sequel and whatnot, which they show with at the end. Like, I would say it's about a progression as opposed to the movie not knowing what it wants to do. It's more like it's ramping and building up to that climax moment.
That's the biggest problem I have with it. Funny enough, because you do lead into my greatest point. This thing ramps at a 90-degree angle. It goes from 0 to 100 way too fast, does not let you get anywhere near attached to the characters like it wants you to, and just everything happens so quickly, you don't get a moment of reprieve. And because of that, it has the movie suffer. Its bad writing is already one issue, but its visuals help to try and keep it in place. And then the progression ruins it all. We go from Steve, the father, being just this stern parent who's at odds with his girlfriend's son, to he's aggressive,
partially abusive, and an absolute cheater. So, his death is not too bad. The one thing we get with the cat is Andy complaining that he's a mean little animal. And then the only action the cat does is scratch and bite at Andy. That is the first action it takes in the movie. So obviously we get to kill the cat now. Horrible. I do like that Detective Mike's mom is the only person who is completely innocent to go, because she was sweet on Andy since Andy helped her out. But it came immediately when you expected it to, because they took out 3 to 4 different bodies before going after her. So obviously we need someone that's innocent so that we can continue making this character villain a villain. Oh no, I've become one of my friends who breaks everything down immediately into its tropes. The point was, this movie, I wanted to like it, not just because it was a remake of the original Child's Play, but because I wanted to see it stand on its own first. And it failed to do that, and it failed to adhere to the humanity that Child's Play had. And once you take those away, it just kind of stops around on one leg. No pun intended to the creepy janitor guy.
Like my thought that I was saying earlier was exactly that. To me, the heart of the Child's Play franchise is Chucky himself, and it's because he's a genuinely great, interesting character who's very human in his wants and everything. To me, like, I'm with Shira on this one. To me, turning Chucky into Skynet, as Jova puts it, to me was a mistake. I don't really think it's at all something that really the movie benefits from.
Yeah, no, like Dwibs and Shiroi, I ended up enjoying this movie, honestly. I was expecting something really bad. Nah. Honestly, no. This movie is fine. I'll even go as far to say it's good. Now, it is not by any means the most stellar remake ever, and it definitely does make some flaws here and there. On the other hand, it does show that it has learned from previous, not just the first, but other Child's Play movies as a whole. And it does do some things better than the original as well. Mind you, I can definitely get preferring the original, and I probably prefer that as well. But this one still has merits of its own here and there. Now, the characters can be a bit herky-jerk, but by the end, I feel like we've gotten to know them relatively well enough. I do enjoy how Chucky's kills are still nice and varied and creative in that regard. Chucky himself. It's not as good as Brad Dourif, but honestly, that was one of the things I was expecting going in. That being said, I actually do like this different take on Chucky. Him slowly becoming more human-like in his approach. And it is pretty cool and creative how he can connect to all the different things in the Keslan system. God help us if Jeff Bezos unwields a new doll for the Amazon Alexa system. But
let's make Chucky the mascot of Amazon.
Oh God!
And they're gonna make replicas of the puppet being used in the streaming series. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah. No. The mom, she's still good. At first it seemed like it, but no. She clearly knows not to give the dick the benefit of a doubt over her son in the long run. So no, the mom's still good. Andy is different, but I can still enjoy him. He's, definitely a kid who is, kind of a bit closed off to himself until he gets other friends, thanks to the Chucky doll, ironically, which, the Chucky doll, in hindsight, probably doesn't like that here and there. I do like how Chucky, in a way, develops and learns in a regard here and there, so I'm fine with the development here. That being said, there are still some issues here. At some point, the jump scares were getting a little too much. They were good at first, but then at some point, not so good here. They got better later on, but As for Detective Mike Harris, he's fine. Not... Okay. I guess technically they did flesh him out in this remake a bit more, with him definitely knowing Andy more, but I'd say it kind of teeters, totters, evens out and whatnot.
I think it's one of those cases where the original Detective Harris didn't have a solid connection with Andy himself, but he did get a good solid connection with the mom. This was like I said, we got to see a lot of how he is and who he is just purely by his actions alone. The fact that he went out of his way to help Karen and save her from that bomb shows that he's a very competent cop who genuinely worries about the safety of the people.
I would say
again,
that both versions even out here and there. Like, again, now back to one thing this movie definitely did better than the original Child's Play, which again, I think this is part of it learning from later movies in the Child's Play series. It gave more agency to Andy in the plot. Not to say that Andy was bad in the original, but it should have been more about his relationship with Chucky, which, yeah, no, okay. The thing with the original Child's Play is because they're hiding the fact that Chucky is alive, we don't exactly get to see his and Andy's relationship develop, per se, to the point where Andy acting mad at Chucky for lying to him may fall flat on some people. Conversely, what this movie does is not only give agency to Andy, but we actually do see his and Chucky's relationship develop. It's under different circumstances, but the development is there, and does also give us a hint of how Chucky becomes how he is the way he is. Granted, if you prefer the mystical element, I can get you not liking this one, but I feel like in terms of containing the premise of Killer Doll, this one does do a different thing, but stays within the lines well enough in that regard. So yeah, no, I appreciate them giving Andy more agency. The friend characters are hit and miss, but nothing egregious. That's the thing. This movie has problems, but it never really gets uber dumb remake problems that I see with a lot of these. And honestly, I'm fine with this. And hey, look, we're in the best case scenario. It's not like this replaced the original series either, so it's its own little quirky thing here and there. So yeah.
Oh, trust me, if this movie ended up replacing the original franchise, I would be a lot angrier right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just something that's just why?
Again, I'm just legit surprised this didn't get a sequel, though, because, again, by all merits, normally a Hollywood studio would jump on a sequel. Yeah, it is baffling, because, look, I do legit find this a good movie. Mind you, it's good, but it still is not as good as the original. That is one thing I will hold to, along with the others, in the long run.
Mm-hmm. If this had to replace the original, it's just no.
Okay, here's my condition. If this would have had to replace the original, only after the original had met its proper conclusion, wherein, then it's not like it's holding off anything, and this could have just been the new era or whatnot. But nah. It really, a lot of this movie is weird. When they decided to make it, again, after Cult of Chucky, which left off on a cliffhanger, and I don't know, part of me is confused on if they actually did want to replace stuff or if they were planning to run these side by side. Whatever. But again, at the end of the day, no, I actually surprisingly ended up enjoying this. Which leaves your final thoughts, Pedro.
Indeed. Like I've said throughout the commentary, I find while I understand that it is timely and relevant, I personally find the whole subtext with the technology thing to be unnecessary, and I don't really see it as much of a. I don't find it to be. I don't think it really elevates the movie particularly for me.
I'd argue it's on the same level as subtext as the commercialism of the original film. It's there, but it's never really distracting, honestly, from the main things like Shirai said.
Oh, sure. Sure. I understand that. That being said, and yes, I'm going to have to go here again, the most important part of the Child's Play franchise is Chucky himself. There's a good reason why the movies, eventually, starting with the fourth one, started being named after him, because Don Mancini knows that he's the one people come to see. You know, so if there's one imperative thing you have to do when you do a Child's Play movie, you have to get Chucky right. If you don't get Chucky right, the whole movie goes down with it. And to me, that's the bigger problem here. The fact that I don't care for this Chucky. I don't find him an interesting character because he's not really much of a character for most of it. Like the idea is that he becomes more and more human throughout the rest of the movie because of the whole AI shit.
Which admittedly is a nice reference to how he was physically becoming more human in the original.
Yeah.
Now it's more he's
That's
psychologically becoming more human.
That's this movie's version of that. The thing is, what made Chucky so appealing and so iconic to this day is the fact that he's a doll with an incredibly awesome, fun personality, despite being a bad person. And again, like Brad Dourif's performance, of course, completely clinches it and turns him into such an iconic horror villain that people still love to this day. And that great personality that makes him so endearing despite being a bad guy really is what makes the franchise work. He's the heart of the franchise. This version of Chucky, on the other hand, while I can see what they're going with, is nowhere near as compelling as the original. And it's like, and even on its own, I don't find him particularly interesting as a horror villain, to be honest. Like, I mean, when it comes to the whole Skynet angle, I've seen movies do the Skynet angle better. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like I'm with Shiro on this one. Taking away Chucky's humanity was not a good move. Yeah. That being said, no, like we've already said, the effect. I am at the very least glad that the effects, for the most part, are still practical, and the gore is good. I do miss the angle from the original trilogy where they genuinely took its time to build up to said things, and the movie wasn't afraid to slow down and build up atmosphere. Whereas this movie, like me and Dibs have said, does go by a bit too fast for its own good. Like there are plenty of times where this movie clearly should have slowed down a bit more so that the characters could have more elaborate talks and bond better. Because right after the mom figures out what's been happening with the boyfriend, okay, I now realize everything. And then Andy puts his head on her shoulder, and then scene just ends. Like, whereas it just feels to me like, no, don't end the scene. You're not done. That is the scene where you should have had a really good bonding moment with them. Maybe they hug. Maybe you see one of the mom reassures them, from this point on, you come first. Something like that. Something like that. Yeah, really nail down on the relationship. But no, the scene ends by too fast. No, that's just, you could flesh that out. You could be better than that. Like, you don't end the scene just yet. You're not. It's undercooked that way. And that's the problem I have with this movie. The movie goes by too fast, and things don't feel as fleshed out as they should.
I would argue it doesn't necessarily fly by. It's kind of like the original in the sense where the stuff it wants to focus on and progress, it definitely progresses in that regard. Kind of like with the original Child's Play. Like, the original Child's Play also did kind of rush through some bits here and there, while its main focus was progressing on the revelation that the doll is alive. This one felt like its focus is more on the progression of, like, how the doll is becoming more human. Mind you, I think each movie does their respective bout of progression still great, to a point where even though they don't always focus on some aspects here and there, they do focus and flesh out what needs to be focused and fleshed out. For the most part, mind you, I will concede that there were some bits that kind of got hurried along still, but I feel like, for the most part, it's nothing like uber fast here, and as long as you're paying attention, you should be fine.
It really is one of those things where, yeah, like Shiro said, if I would be, I'll probably be a bit nicer to it if the movie tried to genuinely stand on its own as an original.
I think that was Jay that said
movie.
that, actually. Oh wait, no, never mind.
No, she already said
That was
that too.
Shuri.
She already said that this should not have been a Chucky movie, in her opinion. And I'm gonna have to say that if this movie had not attached itself to Child's Play, it would have had a much better chance. That way, people wouldn't go in with preconceived expectations, and of course the whole inevitable thing of comparing it to the original. Because by attaching it, even Taylor mentioned that at one point in the commentary, that attaching yourself to this beloved IP that has a dedicated fan base, you're putting yourself at risk. You do that. You should have, with some minimal rewrites, this could have easily have been its own original franchise. I feel like this movie would have had a better chance if it just became its own thing.
Again, that's the thing though. This movie apparently did just fine. Like, it wasn't like blatantly hated. It still had its fans, and it scored solidly, and it made again 4 times its budget. So like, again, I'm just astounded that this movie didn't get a sequel. Again, I'm not lamenting that fact. I'm just legit surprised because normally the Hollywood mentality would have seen at least one sequel, and they clearly left room for it. And
That is true.
it boggles the mind because, like, again, like I was expecting, like, maybe it got uber negative reactions. No, at worst they were mixed. The critics gave it mostly solid reviews, and again, it made its money back and then some. So I'm just really trying to get down to the mystery as to just why they decided not to make a sequel, because, again, Hollywood, you know how they usually think.
It's because the reason I say that is because, well, not only did the sequel not come, but again, Don Mancini specifically says, and I quote him again, if that movie had broken out, if it had been successful, then it could have harmed our plans.
That's the thing, though. It was successful, though. So, like, does he know something that we don't in that regard?
I mean, maybe MGM expected more than what it did.
Which, that wouldn't entirely surprise me. Although, granted, that usually tends to be, like, Sony shtick.
I guess MGM really was banking on the fact that, this is such an iconic franchise that it's totally going to make at least 80 million.
Like, okay,
like that.
Let's keep in mind, like, at this point in time, wasn't the original Child's Play series, like, direct-to-video material anyway? So, like, again, honestly, look, if I were in their shoes, the fact that a movie made with, again, only 10 million made 45 million... I think I would consider that a win.
Yeah.
Again, like, this isn't even about of whether or not I think the movie's good. I am just legit shocked because, again, normally Hollywood behavior is like, hey, it made this money, let's keep pumping this sucker.
I would like to once again reemphasize what Don specifically says. I don't bear any resentment, particularly against any of the people involved in that movie. They were doing a good job. Although the producers, maybe I can bear a grudge for a while. So apparently it's more the producers, the executives that he has a problem with.
That would make sense, yeah.
My guess is, again, I'm taking a wild guess here. My guess is somebody at MGM's told Don about that plan of having this replace his franchise, and he probably didn't like that.
So you think he went over their heads?
Which, again, to be fair, he's allowed to, of course, because he's still passionate about making more. So, so maybe he really didn't care for this idea that MGM. Okay, yes, like Jova said, MGM by this point, Child's Play was a direct-to-video franchise, but by direct-to-video standards, it was doing really well.
Yeah.
Again, there's a reason why Disney made direct-to-video sequels for so long, because they made money, and the Chucky movies were still making money. They weren't making money. They weren't really doing that well by theater box office standards, but by direct-to-video standards, they were being successful, and that's why they kept being made.
And again, that's why I say, by those standards, I would think that making 45 million off 10 million is pretty good for the levels that the series was at. And again, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean, like, again, for a movie series that had been direct-to-video for, like, how many years at that point? I think it did good. And Again, I'm just really trying to get down to the bottom of this.
I have no clue. Again, the only possible, considering that we now know that Amazon only bought them after, then the only possible explanation I can think of is that even before the Amazon buyout, maybe there was some kind of corporate shakeup, a minor one, but still a corporate shakeup where the executives that were primarily responsible for this remake maybe left, and the new ones maybe prefer the original or something. I don't fucking know. It is weird. I will agree because again, and here's the thing: I would be fine with that sequel happening if it wasn't for the fact that, according to Don, this was apparently meant to replace the original. And like Joe
I
said,
would have definitely taken offense at that because at this point the original series still had that cliffhanger.
And even then, can't you at the very least let them coexist? Okay, how about this? You could have on the assumption that this would have succeeded according to Don's standards. Okay, how about have these movies be the theatrical movies, and have Don's franchise be the direct-to-video / streaming one? That way, the hardcore Chucky fans can just stick to those, and the new fans, I guess, can just stick to the theatrical ones. That way, we would just please everybody. But
like, here's my take.
But apparently, their idea was indeed not to have them coexist, just have this one replace it altogether.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, here's my take. Either have them coexist, or wait until the original series is absolutely done.
Yeah, that's the thing, Jova. Even after resolving that cliffhanger, Dawn is, as we now know that the season 2 has been greenlit, Dawn's still not done. So I'm guessing they just didn't want more Chucky even after resolving the cliffhanger, I guess.
Well, okay, given that certain characters are coming back in season 2, my guess is he really wants to touch on every angle he can with this series, which, you know what? God bless him for it.
The Chucky streaming series was incredibly successful and very well liked. So so it's not surprising that Amazon probably came to him. Hey, do you want to make more? Because we're interested. And Don was all like, sure, because Don will keep making these movies as long as you allow him to, because he just loves to make them. Remember, one of the things that I really like, I've mentioned about this, like people like Yuji Ori, the creator of Dragon Quest, and people like Ed Boon from Mortal Kombat. It's so rare to see a creator of a franchise be so passionate to the point where he or she never gets tired of his or her franchise. Because we've seen, how many times have we seen the creators of beloved franchises who want to move on to other things? Like even Shu Takumi at one point, like we've talked about, even he wanted to move on to something else, which is why, him being an apologist without his heart being into it caused those problems, like we talked about.
And even Kojima was starting to get sick of Metal Gear at some point.
Well,
I wouldn't say so much as the point where he wanted to leave, but the point where he wanted a break from it.
The thing about Kojima is that what he wanted to stop making Solid Snake games. He wanted to focus more on Big Boss, which is why after finishing, because remember his original plan for 3 and 4 was that he was going to make 3, because that's a Big Boss game, and have Shuo Murata handle 4, because in his mind he was done with Solid Snake. So it was more so that he was done with Solid Snake. I don't want to make more Solid Snake games. I want to focus on Big Boss now. But yeah, it's a similar situation. But yeah, and this is another case of a creator who loves his franchise so much that he will keep making it as long as you let him. And that's such a rarity that I really appreciate. Like, it's so rare to find creators who are so passionate about it, they're willing to dedicate their entire career to it. That's really cool, in my opinion. I'm at the very least glad it didn't replace it, because I would have really been miffed by that. But that being said, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, because I don't believe that even if you wanted to make an alternate version of Child's Play, I don't feel like this one really was the way to do it. Like I said, taking away Chucky's humanity to me is what killed it. I don't really think that was a good idea. I genuinely believe you could still have the technology thing. I just think you should have given them more of a fun personality, something more elaborate, something like I don't know, like I just think him being just Skynet, I don't know, it's just I don't. I genuinely believe this was not that was not the best decision. But anyway.
Hello, I'm Theo from the future. I know it sounds a bit of a discrepancy, but trust me, it's working as intended.
Mm-hmm.
Giving you just the thoughts of the movie. Okay, there's a story on its own is fine. The idea of an AI being fed bad information and reacting accordingly is something that actually has happened in our world in recent years. So it's not too much of a problem with that. To me, it's more the problem of the franchise that this is attached to. By, like I said in the commentary, by attaching yourself to Child's Play, you'll inevitably be attaching yourself to this kind of property, of which the first movie, while having flaws, was still well beloved, and as such, you'll be drawing inevitable comparisons to, even when you're trying to do something different, Um, but let's remove even that. Let's try to see as a story on its own. I argue that the comedy is hit and miss a lot of times. Even the beginning bit, the reason why Chucky gets created the way he is, the fact that this poor disgruntled employee just deactivates the codes and then suicides. It's clearly framed to be a black comedy moment, but it feels more in poor taste than anything. Um, then there's the fact that not many of the characters are actually likable. The cop certainly is, but his presence is relatively little in the movie, and you just feel more sorry for him more than anything because most of the other characters are jackasses more than anything. Um, Chucky is all over the place. Sometimes he kills, people who deserved to die, like the lover of Andy's mother. Um, Sometimes he just does for the loser, like with the cop's mother, for no real reason. Um, but the biggest scene of all to me is the voice, believe it or not. When I was told that Mark Hamill was supposed to be voicing this kind of character, I was expecting him to go, at the very least, for a third of a movie, full Joker and being this sinister, deep evil voice that is maniacal and everything. But instead, we get HAL 9000, basically, which is fine on its own, but there are better actors that you can have instead of Mark Hamill for the role. Why did you wasted him like that? Only at the end, very briefly, it sounds like he's going through that, but it's not enough. It is not enough. It's a waste of personality for an existing character, Chucky, and for a good voice actor who specializes in kind of demented roles. What a colossal waste. And again, that's just taking the story on its own. Also, I hate to point out a thing that I don't know if the others have mentioned it or not, but this director wants to be artsy because there are a lot of shots that
Yep.
tries to be super particular, like with a silhouette and deeply colored background, or sometimes a particular type of angle showcase the reality. You can tell a lot of times this one tries to be um, more modern in terms of directing, which is not really a problem on its own, but it feels more like a quirk than part of the identity of the movie. You know, and I think it sticks out for just the wrong reasons. But and again, that's just taking it as an original story on its own. As trying to reimagine the story of Child's Play, it has some interesting ideas because again, the original concept, as I think we mentioned, um, Victor Mancini did not want it to have the voodoo, and instead wanted it to be still the soul infused, but more with a blood pact. You know,
Yep.
that was going to happen. So again, the idea of a rogue AI instead is still a good alternative, if you ask me. Um, it's everything around it. I think the best comparison to be made is that this is the new 52 version of Chucky. It's it
It's
checks
not that bad a
it
reboot.
checks the major boxes, but it's dreary, depressing, and everybody wants to tear each other's throat. Basically, it really fits
Eh,
that kind of tone. But like I said, I did not personally had much interest in the original to begin with, so this did not do any favors anyway. So I'll have only to see what the sequels to the original do the next couple of years. Revisiting the ones that I already know and the ones that I didn't. But again, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, that was Child's Play 2019. That was it. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next Halloween, where we will get back to the main series, and let's have some fun with the fan favorite movie of the franchise, Child's Play 2.
Wait. Hold on. What's this? I've gotten a note to my dear friends at SCWRM. I'm writing at you to tell you of the genius work of one Professor Xavier. Oh, sorry, I mean Professor Dumbledore. Sorry, I mean one Victor Frankenstein. Signed Harry Potter. No. Daniel Radcliffe. No. Igor. I wonder what that could mean. Perhaps it will pertain to our next Halloween pick. See you then.